second plane had come into the building, and it felt like, and I always use this analogy, that it felt like someone threw about 20 M80s at you, and you smelt the gas immediately, and the elevator just started to drop. There's other things within my life that I feel could possibly connect with whoever's looking at any of these reels or even the podcast that we do. With September 11th in mind, some people know about my story and some people don't. I feel like in remembrance of the day, because it's very close to me, that maybe I can share my own story. So on September 11th in 2001, I worked for Fuji Bank. I'll tell you, I was very excited because it was my first corporate job. Being at the World Trade Center, that's where the location was. They were in first and the second towers. I'll never forget, everyone knows that it was a beautiful, sunny day. I was training a person that I met for the first time. I don't remember his name, and I don't remember what he actually looks like. Around 7 o'clock or so, there was a loud boom, and the lights flickered. And so when that happened, I remember him specifically telling me and looking over, and I looked over at him. He goes, "Is that supposed to have happened?" And I said, "No." And I immediately got up. I ran out of the computer room, seen a little bit of chaos of people running. I ran into the cafeteria, but the cafeteria had these open windows, and all you seen was flames and papers flying all around. I had seen one person ran out and said, "Hit the stairs." So I ran back in. I said, "Hey, let's hit the stairs, find out what's going on." I remember certain people freaking out and certain people weren't. And I remember in my own mind saying, everything's okay, everything's fine. As we got closer and closer to the 65th floor, I remember they came over the loudspeaker and said, "One world's been hit by a passenger plane. 2 world is secure. Everyone can proceed to go back up to their offices." So at that point, I'm thinking, let me get back up to the office, call over to the backup site, and then figure out what they want me to do from there. I got off of the 65th floor. I got lost in the elevators because it's local elevators at that floor. There are express elevators. Primarily, it goes from there's ones from the floor all the way to 44, and then there's ones all the way to the 78th floor. I wound up going all the way down to 44. I asked one of the security guards. People were just kind of confused and walking around. How can I get back up to 81? And so he said, "I think the elevator down the hall is still working." The elevator was packed, but I was able to squeeze myself in towards where all the buttons were. So I was right on the outskirts of the elevator. And at that point, I guess the second plane had come into the building, and it felt like, and I always use this analogy, that it felt like someone threw about 20 M80s at you, and you smelt the gas immediately, and the elevator just started to drop. I remember throwing myself into the door because the door started to close a little bit, and I was like, "Don't get stuck in the elevator." So I jumped, wedged myself in between the doors, and popped out, and then slammed against the hallway. There was a door that was right in front of me and literally was open, and it was the stairwell. Once that happened, my mindset was get out of the building. Don't know what's going on, but you got to get out. Went from 44th floor, and I would jump to each platform. So I never even really was going down the stairs. I was jumping from platform to platform. I started seeing firemen right around the 10th floor, and they were walking up and we were coming down. And so I got down to it was, I want to say the basement, but it was the mall area. So it was really the floor, it was the basement area. And so we were directed out of the basement area where the mall was. It looked like a war zone had happened because you'd see the mannequins were all broken glass. Everything was all a disaster, like something truly happened. Still don't know what's going on. And I'm being directed, and we're going up the escalator. We're being told to run across the street from where we come out of the Trade Center, and it was the Millennial Hotel and the cemetery that's right across the street from there. There were ambulances, there was blood on the streets. I was trying to process and just couldn't comprehend it really. But once I got to the corner, I looked up in the sky and I seen the 2 holes. And immediately then I just said, I got to go home. Still don't know what happened. Got to go home. I'm thinking that maybe there was a tourist helicopter, something of that nature, Nothing to the extent of what just transpired. But at that point, I started to again react and ran straight down from where we were on Broadway, made my way down to Water Street, and from Water Street ran into a lobby of the building, explained to the security guard that I was just in the towers and I wanted to be able to call home. None of the phones worked. For whatever reason, their phone was working. So he actually allowed me to make the call, spoke to my sister, told him I'm okay, and that I'm going to head towards the ferry. I ran from Water all the way to the ferry. From the ferry, I met up with another ex-coworker of mine that I used to work with, and we were just talking, swapping stories, and just in disbelief. Waiting for the ferry boat to come in. It was the first ferry boat to come in. My building started to come down. And so my building's coming down while the ferry boat's coming in. You're seeing a lot of confusion. People don't know whether to run into the Staten Island ferry area, or you're watching all these other people running from the street away from a cloud. I remember people jumping into the water from the Battery Tunnel Park. And then once we actually were able to get onto the ferry, it started to pull away. And I think the cloud started to catch up by then. People were getting nervous. I remember people jumping into the water and them throwing life preservers at them. I want to say they were F-16s. That's probably the only plane that I actually know of. But I don't know what type. It was the jet fighters flying over Manhattan. And it just was so surreal, as if this was like straight out of the movie of Red Dawn. And so when I actually got on the ferry and that transpired and we started to pull away, the second tower fell. People were like, oh my goodness, the policemen, the firemen. My brother, Frankie, had just got on as a fireman. He was still a probie, and he was stationed in the East Village, Ladder 11, Engine 28. At that point, I realized that he possibly could be there. But we made it over to Staten Island. From Staten Island, got on the train and made my way over to Pleasant Plains train station. My mother was there. She had met me. And it was like we were running in a movie again, surreal, of tears coming down and just crying, but hugging, just to know that I was alive and what just happened. We heard back from my brother, I think later on in the afternoon. I believe, and I don't know the total number at this point, but I believe my Fuji Bank may have lost about 12, 13 coworkers. I'm not positive. There were some in Tower 1 and some in Tower 2. I do see some of the coworkers that I knew of that have their own stories that were on documentaries, which is wild. If I did go up, that plane came through my floor on the second tower. So while I was earlier there, and for some reason, just didn't happen. Yeah. And I did remember looking up in the sky and saying, you got some plan for me. You're not finished with me yet. It's hard because as the years have gone on, I feel like it is not remembered the way it should. Although I guess we live in Staten Island or within our own local community, I think people will observe it or understand it to a certain degree. I've learned to be very grateful. And for me, again, I went to work. Something really bad happened that not only affected me, but affected the whole world. And it's just one of those stories that I have within my life that has definitely changed me and how I think and how grateful I am and how I have to remember certain aspects that have transpired in my life that have brought me to where I am now.